Annie of the shop. At the dance in the chief's barn, Sercombe had paired with Annie of the shop oftener than with any of the other girls. That she should please him at all was something in his favour, for she was a simple, modest girl, with the nicest feeling of the laws of intercourse, the keenest perception both of what is in itself right and what is becoming in the commonest relation. She understood by a fine moral instinct what respect was due to her, and what respect she ought to show, and was therefore in the truest sense well bred. There are women whom no change of circumstances would cause to alter even their manners a hair's breadth. Such are God's ladies. There are others in whom any outward change will reveal the vulgarity of a nature more conscious of claim than of obligation. I need not say that Sercombe, though a man of what is called education, was but conventionally a gentleman. If in doubt whether a man be a gentleman or not, hear him speak to a woman he regards as his inferior. His very tone will probably betray him. A true gentleman, that is, a true man, will be the more carefully respectful. Sercombe was one of those who regard themselves as respectable because they are prudent. Whether they are human and their brother and sister's keeper, they have never asked themselves. To some minds neither innocent nor simple, there is yet something attractive in innocence and simplicity. Perhaps it gives them a pleasing sense of their superiority, a background against which to rejoice in their liberty, while their pleasure in it helps to obscure the gulf between what the man would fain hold himself to be, and what in reality he is. There is no spectre so terrible as the unsuspected spectre of a man's own self. It is noisome enough to the man who is ever trying to better it. What must it appear to the man who sees it for the first time? Sercombe's self was ugly, and he did not know it. He thought himself an exceptionally fine fellow. No one knows what a poor creature he is but the man who makes it his business to be true. The only mistake worse than thinking well of himself is for a man to think God takes no interest in him. One evening, sorely in lack of amusement, Sercombe wandered out into a starlit night, and along the road to the village. There he went into the general shop, where sat Annie behind the counter. Now, the first attention he almost always paid a woman, that is when he cared and dared, was a compliment, the fungus of an empty head or a false heart. But with Annie he took no such initiative liberty, and she, accustomed to respectful familiarity from the chief and his brother, showed no repugnance to his friendly approach. "Upon my word, Miss Annie," said Sercombe, venturing at length a little, "you were the best dancer on the floor that night." "Oh, Mr. Sercombe, how can you say so, with such dancers as the young ladies of your party?" returned Annie. "They dance well," he returned, "but not so well as you." "It all depends on the dance, whether you are used to it or not." "No, by Jove! If you had a lesson or two such as they have been having all their lives, you would dance out of their sight in the twinkling of an eye. If I had you for a partner every night for a month, you would dance better than any woman I have ever seen, off the stage, any lady, that is." The grosser the flattery, the surer with a country girl, he thought. But there was that in his tone, besides the freedom of sounding her praises in her own ears, which was unpleasant to Annie's ladyhood, and she held her peace. "Come out and have a turn," he said thereupon. "It is a lovely starlight. Have you had a walk today?" "No, I have not," answered Annie, casting how to get rid of him. "You wrong your beauty by keeping to the house." "My beauty," said Annie, flushing, "may look after itself. I have nothing to do with it. Neither, excuse me, sir, have you." "Why, who has a right to be offended with the truth? A man can't help seeing your face is as sweet as your voice, and your figure, as revealed by your dancing, a match for the two." "I will call my mother," said Annie, and left the shop. Sercombe did not believe she would, and waited. He took her departure for a mere coquetry. But when a rather grim, handsome old woman appeared, asking him, it took the most of her English, "What would you be wanting, sir?" as if he had just come into the shop, he found himself awkwardly situated. He answered with more than his usual politeness that, having had the pleasure of dancing with her daughter at the chief's ball, he had taken the liberty of looking in to inquire after her health, whereupon, perplexed, The old woman in her turn called Annie, who came at once, but kept close to her mother. Sercombe began to tell them about a tour he had made in Canada, for he had heard they had friends there. But the mother did not understand him, and Annie more and more disliked him. He soon saw that at least he had better say nothing more about a walk, and took himself off, not a little piqued at repulse from a peasant girl in the most miserable shop he had ever entered. 2 days after he went again, this time to buy tobacco. Annie was short with him, but he went yet again, and yet sooner. These primitive people objected to strangers, he said. Accustomed to him, she would be friendly. He would not rest until he had gained some footing of favour with her. Annie grew heartily offended with the man. She also feared what might be said if he kept coming to the shop, where Mistress Connell had seen him more than once, and looked poison at him. For her own sake, for the sake of Lachlan, and for the sake of the chief, she resolved to make the young father of the ancient clan acquainted with her trouble. It was on the day after his rejection of the 10-pound note that she found her opportunity, for the chief came to see her. "Was he rude to you, Annie?" he asked. "No, sir. Too polite, I think. He must have seen I did not want his company. I shall feel happier now, you know." "I will see to it," said the chief. "I hope it will not put you to any trouble, sir." "What am I here for, Annie? Are you not my clanswoman? Is not Lachlan my foster brother? He will trouble you no more, I think." As Alister walked home, he met Sercombe, and after a greeting not very cordial on either side, said thus: "I should be obliged to you, Mr. Sercombe, if you would send for anything you want, instead of going to the shop yourself. Annie Macruadh is not the sort of girl you may have found in such a position, and you would not wish to make her uncomfortable." Sercombe was ashamed, I think, for the refuge of the fool when dissatisfied with himself is offence with his neighbour, and Sercombe was angry. "Are you her father, or her lover?" he said. "She has a right to my protection, and claims it," rejoined Alister quietly. "Protection? Oh, what the devil would you protect her from?" "From you, Mr. Sercombe." "Protect her, then." "I will. Force yourself on that young woman's notice again, and you will have to do with me." They parted. Alister went home. Sercombe went straight to the shop. He was doing what he could to recommend himself to Christina, but whether from something antagonistic between them, or from unwillingness on her part to yield her position of advantage, and so her liberty, she had not given him the encouragement he thought he deserved. He believed himself in love with her, and had told her so, but the truest love such a man can feel is a poor thing. He admired and desired, and thought he loved her beauty, and that he called being in love with her. He did not think much about her money, but had she then been brought to poverty, he would at least have hesitated about marrying her. In the family he was regarded as her affianced, although she did not treat him as such, but merely went on bewitching him, pleased that at least he was a man of the world. While one is yet only in love, the real person, the love capable, lies covered with the rose leaves of 1,000 sleepy-eyed dreams, and through them come to the dreamer but the barest hints of the real person of whom is the dream. 1,000 fancies fly out, approach, and cross, but never meet. The man and the woman are pleased, not with each other, but each with the fancied other. The merest common likings are taken for signs of a wonderful sympathy, of a radical unity, of essential capacity, therefore, of loving and being loved. At 100 points their souls seem to touch, but their contacts are the merest brushings, as of insect antennae. The real man, the real woman, is all the time asleep under the rose leaves. How happy is the rare fate of the true, to wake and come forth and meet in the majesty of the truth, in the image of God, in their very being, in the power of that love which alone is being. They love, not this and that about each other, but each the very other, a love as essential to reality, to truth, to religion, as the love of the very God. Where such love is, let the differences of taste, the unfitness of temperament be what they may, the two must by and by be thoroughly one. Sercombe saw no reason why a gentleman should not amuse himself with any young woman he pleased. What was the chief to him? He was not his chief. If he was a big man in the eyes of his little clan, he was nothing much in the eyes of Hilary Sercombe.